Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get started. So as Letty said, my name is Hector Avila. I'm a program specialist with the agency at Resident Services. So this is a big part of what I do with my job is help individuals apply for housing, look for resources. We do offer a family resource center, which is open to anyone in the community, regardless of whether you receive housing or not, for different services. So keep us in mind if there's something else that you need. But today I'm going to give a brief overview of our housing application, and feel free to ask questions at the end. I'll have a quick second for us to do that. And I think this should be a pretty quick application. I will walk through it step by step of what the entire process looks like. So we'll go over today, what to know before you even start applying, what our website looks like, what it's like to register a new account, what the application portal looks like, the application itself, and then, of course, what to do after you've applied. Once you submit the application, that's great, but we want to make sure that there's follow-up on both ends to make sure that you're properly staying on that channel. For affordable housing through Housing Authority. All right, so some things to know before you start. You'll need, of course, a device with internet. For every person in the household, in the new household, so that's a really important note. This isn't, if you're renting a room and there's lots of people in that house, this is whoever's going to be moving to the new household with you. You'll want to know their name, date of birth, social security number, and the annual household income. So that's everyone's income in the household that is receiving income. Whoever's applying ideally is over the age of 18, must be over the age of 18, and ideally that person has a social security number. If it's a mixed status family, you want to pick whoever's the oldest over 18 with the social security number. This is what the website looks like. So you go to myaccount.hcsb.org. At the very top, I think this has a little thing on it, you'll see applicant login, and you'll go ahead and click on that. That one there? All set? Awesome. Once you go to that page, it's going to go ahead and take you to this one. And here, at the very bottom, you'll see it asks for email and password. That's if you've already created an account. If it's your first time applying, you're going to click here to register. And that's going to start you on the registration process for the portal. So the next thing it's going to ask you is this question. Do you have a registration code? If you don't know what it is, you probably don't have one. If you click, I do not have a registration code, that's usually the best option. If you have already applied somewhere else, you likely have a registration code. If you start the process without one, it doesn't really matter. So kind of the bottom line is, when in doubt, I do not have a registration code. That's going to be the best way to start the application. Then it's going to ask for a whole bunch of information. So this is going to be for what's in housing we call the head of household. So this is going to be the main person on the account. This is a person who we want to be over the age of 18 with the social security number. And that's just their basic information of email address, you'll create a password, confirm a password, their name, last name, social security number, and a phone number. You'll want to make sure you have all this information on hand for the main person applying. If you already have an account, and this sometimes happens through us because we use the same system as the County Housing Authority, and since we use the same system, it'll say you already have an account. There's a few things you can do. If you know your information, the password, you can go ahead and submit that. If you can't remember your password, all you're going to do is hit, I forgot my password. That'll then prompt you to get an email to whatever email is on file, and you can then start the process of applying for our agency. You'll then select the language that you're going to be applying under, of course, English and Spanish. And then you'll get this page here, just says, let's get started. You'll go ahead and click next. And now we're going to go ahead and start entering the information for the household. So this is where I said you want to enter in all information for everyone who will be going into the household with you. And so that includes co-head of households, spouses, other adults who live with you over the age of 18, children, live-on attendees. That would be like if you have medical reasons and you have someone who sleeps with you overnight. So the first thing that you're going to see once you start the household information is going to be your name as the head of household, your age, your gender, and then you have to click edit. So if it's only you in the household, this is the only step that you'll do. When you hit edit, it's going to ask you this information here. So more stuff in depth, of course, date of birth, social security number. Since it's yourself, it's going to be no relation needed there. Is there a disability? Are you a US citizen? If this is a no, it's going to indicate you to have one more question. This additional box will pop up that asks, does this person have eligible immigration status? And then that'll drop down a list of other options for you. And then preferred language other than English, and that'll give you a list of languages that you can then apply for. It'll then ask for ethnicity and race, so you'll go ahead and submit this. Fun fact with this is that you have to put no or yes on all of them. So if you leave them blank, it won't let you continue. You need to make sure that you put no if no and yes if yes. And then you'll hit save. If it's just you in the household, you click next. For every additional person that you're going to be adding, you're going to hit add household member. And you want to make sure that you add everyone that's going to be in your household. The system does let you go back and add and delete people. So if someone is born, you can add them. If someone moves out of the household, you can take them off. What you put on here isn't final. Up until you have your appointment with the case manager, then your household is what your household is at that time. Here it's annual income that is gross, and that is going to be for everyone in the household that has a job. And you want to make sure that you indicate that as accurately as possible. Good note with any of this is always to be as honest as possible. If you were in the previous presentation, I know you heard them say that one of the reasons why we often deny or no longer assist is because we find inconsistencies in the application, and that holds true with housing, right? There's income guidelines, there's household size guidelines that we have to follow through the federal government. So we're offering you something based off of what you're putting on these applications. If we find that it's not true at the time of the offering, unfortunately, that could lead to us no longer being able to offer that to you. From here, it's going to ask about accessibility, and there's 3 questions: hearing, mobility, and sight. So you want to indicate if any of these are accessibility accesses that you might need, and if not, you can go ahead and just click no and continue on with this portion. Now here's the good part and where we get a lot of questions. These are the programs we have available. I'm sure some of you heard me mention in the last presentation. At this time, our Section 8 voucher program is not currently accepting applications. So what's often thought of as housing, where you get a voucher and are able to look with private landlords or other organizations, that's not open at this time, unfortunately. If it is open, we do have to do an advertising process where we have to put it on the radio, in the newspaper. We have to give about a 60-day notice, give or take, where we would let the public know when we're going to open and when we plan to close. So keep your ears out for that. If it does happen, we would inform the general public. We wouldn't just surprise drop it. So that's one way we would go ahead and do that. Yes?
How long has it not been open? And when might it be open?
So last it opened was, I think, last year in February-ish. It was the beginning of last year. As to when it might open again, we don't know. It all depends on federal funding. So whenever we have the money, or if lots of people for some reason leave their voucher and we have a large amount of vouchers that we can then open up, it makes sense to open and pass on, then it would open. But at this time, we were not able to really give a date, unfortunately, as to when we expect it to open. Not every year. There's times where it's longer period. There's times where it's shorter period. It, like I said, just depends on funding and then the amount of vouchers that are currently out and coming back to us. Yeah, so it's a big fluctuation, right? Because if there's funding, but there's no vouchers to give on our end, then we can't really do it, or vice versa. If there's vouchers but there's no funding, then kind of has to be a perfect storm of both happening.
If I may, on the topic of fluctuations, going back to the previous slide about income,
Yes.
you said to be honest and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
What if your income fluctuates like severely?
Try
You
to
don't have control over the fluctuation.
try to average it out as best as you can. I understand that there's some jobs where Ubering, for example, or door dashing, it's never going to be an exact science because it's not an hourly base. But give it your best estimate. We're also not trying to find a reason not to house you, but it's one thing when it's something like that, and it's another thing to say, oh, I don't have any income, but you are having a job. So I think just be as honest as you can be, and you can always use your last year's taxes. That's a good indicator, and just say, hey, I used last year's taxes because this is what I have historically made, and I have the same job. It might change, but we understand those fluctuations. So these are some of the preference points that we have through our agency. So what this means is that these are some things that are going to give you a little bit of an extra assistance. So not having a vehicle, and when I say not having a vehicle, that means you can't lease, you can't have one registered to you, you can't consistently drive one. So that means that if we see you on one of our properties constantly driving a car, we're going to have some questions about it. We do have properties that are zero vehicle restricted. We have some properties where that's not the case. But for the for the zero vehicle restricted properties, that means there's no vehicles allowed for any purpose. No one in the household. Correct. For these properties, correct. If you're homeless or at imminent risk of homelessness, that's going to be another preference point. Live, work, or have been hired to work here in the county of Santa Barbara. This is actually the biggest preference point, in my opinion, because we're always going to serve those that live and work here before we go out. So that means that if you don't live and work here, we can't quote you a wait time because we have to serve everyone here first before we're then able to go outside of the county. So that's one. Not receiving ongoing rental assistance. That's also really important. If you're already receiving some kind of rental assistance, we want to assist those who don't have any assistance first, right? They're not getting any help. They're going to be the priority before someone who is, let's say you're receiving through the county housing authority or some other agency that's providing you rental assistance. It's always going to be the preference to serve those who don't have any assistance at all. At least one of my household members is a legal resident. And there's a veteran, active veteran. Yes. So the vehicle is preferred that you don't have a vehicle? There's properties that move a little faster without vehicles. So it provides a preference point because we do have properties where there's no vehicles restricted. And obviously most people like their cars. So it's a little preference point. I'm not saying it's going to jump you to the top of the list, but in terms of us being able to provide a preference point, that is one thing that we do like to see. No vehicles, right. Everyone in the household. Everyone, right. Everyone living on that household. But only if you select that choice. Only if you select that option. Yeah, so if you don't mark that, like if you don't say, if you leave this blank, we won't obviously consider you for those properties.
What motorcycle? Does that for one of vehicles?
It does, yeah.
But if you occasionally rent cars.
It's a gray area. Like I said, it's one of those things where if we see a car more often than not, it's going to be a question, especially because with a lot of those properties, when we buy them or when the city allocates money to them, they put in our contract that one of the reasons they're giving it to us is because they wanted to have no vehicles. So us getting that funding and being able to provide that housing comes with the stipulation from the city itself to have the money or the property. So I would say if you're more inclined to have a car, don't select it because it probably won't end up working out. Oh. So these are the programs that we currently have available. To kind of give you a good summary, These first two and senior subsidized is for everyone that's 62 and over. So if you see 62 years of age, 62 years of age. The difference between Gardens on Hope and Garden Court is that they have an additional charge to them because they do provide on-site meals, on-site cleaning. I believe they have internet, and they also provide events at them. It tends to be a little bit more of a in between independent living, but not necessarily needing a nursing home. So it's a good in between for folks who need a little more care, but they don't want to fully be in a nursing home being taken care of 24/7. They have buses that take them to their appointments. Those are, I believe, both zero vehicle restrictions. So the ideal is that someone is taking you to your appointments through those vehicles. But that's an option. Johnson Court is for veterans only. So as you can see, development for veterans. Project-based Section 8. This is the one where almost everyone falls into. It's just as long as you make under a certain amount of money. For one person, I believe it's $72,000 a year. If you make under $72,000 a year for one person, you qualify for that one. And then it goes up depending on the amount of members in your household, and that's on our website if you want a little more information on the income guidelines. Senior subsidized, it's very similar to project-based where it's income, but then you also have to be over the age of 62. And the last one is Veracruz Village. This is one of our most recent developments. And that one is for those who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. At risk is also a very specific definition. You have to be within 14 days of losing your household to be considered at risk. And then the last thing it has you do on the application is it basically summarizes everything you just did in these little tabs. So you want to jump through each and every one and just make sure that everything you put in there is correct. Nothing is set in stone, which is one of the nice things. Anything that you need to update, income, household members, you can go in there and do so and update it at any time with your username and password. So it's not permanent. You can always go in there and make the changes that you have to make. If, let's say, the zero card thing, if you let go of your vehicle and now you want to indicate that you no longer have it, you can go in there and mark that preference. If your housing status changes and for some reason you lose your housing and you want to indicate homelessness, that's another thing you can go back in there and change. So yeah, it's good to know that you can make these changes and you can make them either through this portal or I'm going to give you all some steps to come in person and do that as well. You want to accept the terms and conditions and then click next. And that's it. That's it for the application. And now we're going to talk about what to do after. So now you want to inform us of any changes. The two most important one is change of address. The biggest reason that I see folks get their applications canceled is because we'll only send you mail. And if you're no longer at the address that you're at, if you don't get a response back, we think you're no longer interested, application canceled. So if your address changes, go in there and change it, or you can come in person, and as long as you put something in writing, it can be on the sticky note, it can be on the back of a Vaughn's receipt, just get us in writing that your address changed, because otherwise we don't know where to send things to. Address, income, household changes, those are kind of the big ones that you want to keep updated. Checking on the status of your application, you can check online to see if where it's at. Two important things to note. One, we don't give numbers. So we don't give numbers because it's consistently changing. For example, right now, there's a freeze on federal funding. We're not able to issue as many as we have been able to in the past. The other reason is because of the preference points, there's consistent shifting. Veterans are always going to be housed a little bit faster than everyone else. So it looks scary with numbers because that number can go from 1 to 1,000 to 50 to 25, all in a span of a month. So we typically give it in terms of years you're going to wait. If you can't check online for whatever reason, you can come into our office or you can give us a call. We do status checks from 8 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday except for Wednesdays. And then just keep in mind that we do close every other Friday. For example, this Friday we're closed. So next Friday you could ask for that information should you need it. The last thing is that we can help you reset your password and your email. So if for whatever reason you lose access to the portal, you get a new email address, resetting the password, we can help you do that. Resetting the email address, we can help you do that. If we have to delete your account to reset your email address, you keep the same place in line that you originally had. So even though your account gets restarted, Your place in line does not. You keep the same position that you've had. And that's it for me. I mean, it's a pretty easy application. We do offer assistance in the office, but I always say if you can try online and do it. We do have a printed guide on our Housing Authority table if you want to take a step-by-step guide that's listed there. But I'd be happy to take any questions at this time if anyone has any.
Yeah, what's,
Oh, either one.
what's the percentage of rent under, do they take a percentage of your pay of what your income is, or how does that?
Correct. For all of our project-based, for everything that's Section 8 or Section 8 project-based, your rent is always going to be 30% of your income. And that's one of the 30% of your income. 30% of your income, correct. And that can adjust. So if you lose a job, if you get paid more money, it's your responsibility to let us know where your income is at because we need to adjust it. So just let us know what your income changes once you're on the program. Yes. Oh, sorry, I think he had a question. Let me get him real quick.
Over to my question. How many people are currently have applied but haven't received the benefit as of now?
Oh, I don't know, unfortunately, off the top of my head. I can tell you the wait list is being quoted, just to be honest, at right now at 4 to 6 years for most of our programs.
What?
4 to 6 years. Yeah. For wait time. For wait time for our programs. 4 to 6 years. So waiting on the wait list could be up to 4 to 6 years before we call you. Yeah. And that, like I said, the preference points will change that. Also, if you're a veteran, that does also change that. Mm-hmm. Yes. Unfortunately not, because we already have senior housing as a separate application portal, and that's also at that same point. The exception, I don't want to say exception, but where there's a little more federal assistance is for veterans. 4 to 6. Correct. That's when you would likely get an offer letter. So you would be offered a unit at that time. Correct. Mm-hmm. And then you had a question, sorry.
No problem. So I was wondering if when I'm in a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
getting alimony, is that part of my income?
It could be anything that's received on a monthly, bi-weekly basis. We typically consider income. At this time, and it might change, most assets we don't consider income. So in stocks, dividends, things like that, we don't consider income, but
So
yes.
like if I have an inheritance or whatever in the bank, that doesn't count against?
Not at this time, no. But I think they are looking at making a change at that. Yes. Stocks, bonds, assets, anything that's considered an asset. So an asset, correct, is not considered income. Correct. Stocks, bonds, pensions. It depends on, and there's gray areas in all of these, because also if you're taking money out on a consistent basis, that's a little different. That's also getting a little more into like the case manager part of it, because it's very case by case. Some stuff might not be, some stuff might be. It really kind of boils down to how often you're accessing money. Because
My second part of the question is, if I'm not 62 quite yet, is it possible, can I still, I have to wait till I'm actually 62?
You have to wait till you're 62 to apply for senior housing. Yeah.
And there's no other, we're not talking about any other, besides veterans, we're not talking about other kinds of housing.
Well, project-based housing, I can go back to it. Oh yeah. Project-based housing, this one right here, it's for any eligible household. So that one doesn't have an age limit. That one is all income-based. And then Letty also gave me this. We do offer what's called workforce and downtown workforce housing for those who work in the city of Santa Barbara. This one is different because there's no wait list. How it works is that we post them on our website. You have to keep checking because we never know when we're going to get a unit available, when someone's going to move out. So But when one does become available, as long as you meet whatever the guidelines are on there, and it's different per property. Some of them will say you have to make X amount of money. It's a 2 bedroom, so there must be this many people in that household. You can apply for it.
And so does that apply to teachers as well?
It does, yes. Yeah, as long as you're working in the city of Santa Barbara, it applies for you, and it doesn't matter what the job is.
And the guidelines are on the paper?
It's on this one that says workforce housing, correct. And it is, the guidelines for income and stuff will change by property and by unit that they offer. There's like a general one, but then it'll also depend on how many bedrooms. Correct. Yeah. And sorry, wait, let me, before I forget this, one more thing. It's non-subsidized. So it's, instead of it being 30% of your income, it's a flat rate. It's not based on your income. So if your income increases or decreases, you remain responsible for whatever the full rental amount is on that unit. It's a little more difficult than our subsidized, because that's nice, right? You have an income change, you report it, we adjust your rent. That's not with this one, and it is dependent on you keeping the job.
Okay, so if you lose your job, then you
And you can have a vehicle with that, right?
Some of the properties. Yes. You gotta really pay attention to the whatever the description is on there, because some of them will say vehicle restricted, vehicle limit, or no vehicle. Yeah.
If someone applied in 2022 and they turned 62 last year, what situation, what would be their best way for them to stay on the wait list?
So the good news is, if you've already applied for other things, you stay on those wait lists whenever the original application date was. For senior housing, so let's say they applied for project-based in 2022, their good wait list is going to be 3 years now, right? But they would then apply for senior housing. That wait list would start on the day of the application. You don't lose the original wait time, but you do start a new wait time with the new wait list, with the new one.
They go back, do they do any application then, or would they go back and add to their preferences?
You would go back and add to your preferences. Correct.
Kind of along those lines.
Mhm.
And another question. If they applied in paper, do they contact you to?
Yeah, if they submitted an application a while ago on paper, we would need to create an account and then resubmit a new one. It should keep their original wait time on the first one.
And if someone did apply like by paper, is there a way that they can check online and set it, or should it?
They should be able to make an account, and it should just pop on there. So if they go through these steps, it should show the original application date. It shouldn't delete it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. And then,
For new developments
Mhm.
and how the city mandates developers to allocate 10% of the units as affordable,
Mhm.
is that under the purview of housing authority?
No, so if they're not our developments, that 10% just means that 10% of their units have to be Section 8 voucher holders. But they decide who rents those units. So they can do the credit checks and all that. They just should have 10% of the units should hold vouchers or some form of federal subsidy assistance. Mm-hmm.
And but the rent is decided by you.
No, not necessarily. So to rent through us, they have to do a rental approval form. To become a landlord, we have to go look at the unit, make sure that the unit is, like in the previous presentation, hospitable. And then they submit their rent, and we go through what's called a rent reasonable process. And we basically make sure to check and see if the median rent in this area is $2,000. If they're charging $4,000, we kind of say why. We're not able to subsidize that unit because it's over the rent portion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how, because landlord said that he doesn't determine the rent for those affordable units that the city does.
Not to my knowledge. So we never set rents for landlords when they're private landlords. We have to approve the rents in order to provide the portion of the subsidy, and we do give these guidelines of like within your area you have a 2-bedroom in this area, it should be this amount. But they're private landlords, so we can't force them, right? Right? We can't say you have to rent to us at this amount. In a perfect world, yes, but to rent through us, we do have to approve the rental portion, but we don't set that rental portion.
And every year, what are the landlord's responsibilities for those units?
If they're private landlords, I mean, they have to provide a hospitable unit, we do yearly inspections through housing. So when you're put on our programs, we do go to the unit every year to make sure that the unit is in a habitable condition, both on your end and the landlord's end, smoke detectors, are any windows broken. And if any of those fail, then we have to go through a process of either saying we need to pull the subsidy or the tenant needs to make a change or whatever it might be. So we do have requirements to the landlords in order to stay on the program. And we do inspect the units both before and then on an annual basis.
And how long do those units remain affordable? Isn't it 30 years?
I mean, through us, that I don't know. I mean, a lot of landlords like to stay through our programs because we offer so many incentives to where we usually see once one landlord gets like one property, we see it start to spread. Like their other properties will start to take it because it's a good deal. So thankfully on that end, we don't see landlords taking away. We see a growth in that aspect. But technically speaking, they don't have to utilize us. If they decide one day I wanted to privatize it, they technically could.
But their development and construction permit was approved
Through the city.
through the city.
Right.
Having those 10%
Yeah.
affordable units.
Yeah,
So,
I think oftentimes the confusion is that we're not technically part of the city. Like we're called the Housing Authority of the City of Santa Barbara, but we're a separate entity from the city. So they could choose to do affordable housing in different ways. That doesn't necessarily include us. But they do have to, in order to continue to get grants or funding from the city, they do have to meet whatever they signed legally to continue to do that. Just renting through us isn't necessarily the only way or like a necessary way for them to do it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who else in the city is?
There's other agencies like New Beginnings, Path Point, some of them. The County Housing Authority also has some properties or some vouchers here in the city. So there's other agencies that they can go through. Mm-hmm.
Within the city.
Correct. Correct.
Could you give examples of what the rents, or like what they range, like what you would be, like say through workforce or anything like that?
The workforce, it's a little tricky because it depends on the areas, and I've seen, I don't really know, like as low as 1,000 up to 2,800. Like it really varies on the workforce end. For project based and our vouchers, it's always going to be 30% of your income. So as long as take your income, multiply it by 30%, and that's going to be your rent month to month. Yeah. Oh, well, project based you should qualify for. Yeah, because that one's not age dependent. That one's just income dependent. Yeah. Our units do. Yeah, you can have one pet, and then if it's an emotional service, it's a different way. If it's just a household pet, there is pet rent, pet deposit, stuff like that. But yes, yeah. Yes.
For the workforce housing,
Uh-huh.
if I'm interested in that part,
Yeah.
I have to go through that application you went over initially.
No, not for workforce housing. So for workforce housing, all you do is check back on our website, and then whenever we post them on there, it'll link you to a Craigslist link where you can see the description of the unit, all the requirements, and then it'll give you a link to the application. The application will look very similar to the one we just went through, but it'll be for a specific property or unit.
And one more question
Yeah.
in regards to assets. So 401k don't count as assets for this program?
Not at this time, correct. Not at this time. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. Did you want to add something? Do you have any other questions? Nope, yep.
So for the workforce, I can go ahead and do that. If I wanted to do it tonight, I can go ahead and.
Right, if there's something available, right. So that's the tricky part with the workforce is that it's not like this where it's always open. It'll say on there, workforce housing, Castillo, 922 Street, and then it'll give you a link. Or it'll say no vacancies available, and then you kind of have to check every day. Yeah. Yeah, make it part of your morning routine. You wake up, you check the Instagram stories, and then you check Housing Authority, and that one will tell you like rent is X amount, and then it'll say minimum this many people, maximum this many people.
And then you have to make at least 35,000.
Not for that one, it'll give you, it's based on each unit. So each description will tell you this is the minimum and maximum income for that unit.
It just says for all of them.
That's going to be the starting point.
Right.
But then, like, let's say it's a 2-bedroom, it's going to say between this and this.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Yeah, it'll.
I'm like
That,
under that.
oh.
I don't think I qualify for it yet.
So project-based, yeah, I would say right now that's going to be the best program for you to apply for, the project-based housing. Yeah. Yes.
I suspect that as I go through this, I'm gonna have a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
You offered your phone number.
Yes.
Should that be done after the application is completed or completed with you in office setting?
Either one. If you feel comfortable doing it on your own and you just want to call, I'm happy to answer questions over the phone. If you want to come in and do it in person, we do have walk-in hours at our office Monday through Thursday from 8 to 10 a.m. Sorry, 10 to 12, where anyone can come in and we'll guide them through the application.
Do you take appointments or not?
We do, yes, as well. Yeah, we can make an appointment as well. 808 Laguna, right diagonally across from us. Yeah, so if you just cross the street diagonally. Yes, if anyone wants to write it down now, I'm gonna. It's 805-897-1044. Again, that's 805-897-1044. And my name is Hector Avila, Avila.